Today we're making some awesome beach charms, one of my favorite things to make. To start with, we're going to make our sandy layer for the bottom part of our charms. So we need some clear resin for that and a ton of sand. And you can buy sand online. I'm using this rather nice coloured sand, as you can see here. And I'm just going to pour in until I judge it to be enough. So you'll see I keep mixing and pouring in the sand here. The consistency we're looking for is quite specific. It needs to be enough that you know there's definitely sand in there, but not enough that it doesn't let the resin cure properly. But you can see what I'm going for here. So just gradually add it until it looks very sandy and feels nice and crunchy, but still smooth enough. Next, you take your mould and you pour in the sand. And as you can see, I've tilted the mould slightly to make sure that this resin doesn't spread to the top of the mould where our water is going to be. So I'm using some birthday candles for my tilting. You might have something a bit more elaborate. So I'm just pouring in enough to create a thin layer of sand, because there is going to be a clear layer on top of all of this, hopefully. There's our sand, ready for the shells. Just pop them in the sandy layer where you want them. I've added a few more and even a starfish. Leave that to cure for 24 hours. Now it's 24 hours later and I've mixed some blue resin. This is going to go into the top part of your mould. Again, a thin layer. Not to the top of the mould, so just in this top part of the mould, and that's going to flow until it reaches the sand layer. It can overflow a little bit, that's fine. I prefer it not to myself. So as you can see, the blue is flowing until it meets the sand. Now we can mix a little bit of green into our blue resin, and this is to create that reefy shore-like effect where the water seems a bit more shallow near the sand. So mix it well. I think I didn't do a good job of mixing it this time, unfortunately, so one of them you might see some streaks later. But just pour it closer to the sand, a little bit will do. I'm just trying to sort out a little bit where I think the green hasn't mixed so well. And when we've done this, we can prick any bubbles that rise to the top and leave that to cure for 24 hours. Now that's cured, and this is what they're looking like. So now we just need a clear layer of resin to round out the top and make it nice and smooth. Now my shells are going to protrude a little bit, and I personally think that's okay because, you know, you can't estimate the size of a shell. If it's a little bit 3D, that's no problem at all. So we're just going to tilt it around, make sure we've got that mould filled to the top. And my camera's wobbling. And keep adding all your clear resin. And in the starfish, I think I slightly overfill the mould, and you'll see why that's a problem later on. Just trying to get that little bit where that shell is protruding. When you've done that, you can leave it to cure for another 24 hours. And here's the finished result 24 hours later. So this one I think has turned out all right, the spiral shell. You can see the sand, you can see the blue. And another one that I think has turned out okay is this one. And the shell is just about sticking out, which I quite like. Here's the problem. I overfilled my mould with the starfish, and when that happens, you end up with little bobbly bits like that you need to sand off, and sanding resin is a pain and I don't like it. This one is where I think the green didn't blend so well into the blue, but overall it still came out okay, and I'm quite pleased with this one. One of the most boring shells, but quite a nice little keyring charm. So that's it. Thank you very much.